Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings, and along with my co-host, Ms. Ronline Cannady, we are here again on a Tuesday morning to bring you something perhaps provocative and or interesting to think about as we get through the rest of this week. Something came to mind as I was in church on Sunday that made me think, and it had to do with candles. And when we think about candles, I think we don't really give it much thought, especially when we talk about the origin of candles, how far back they go in the history of mankind, and what basically is the function of a candle. We take them for granted like we do with so many other things, but here at the Kitchings Table, we're going to make sure that some things just aren't taken for granted. Good morning, Ron Lee.
Good morning, Earl. How are you this morning?
I'm perked up and ready to go.
I'm glad to hear that.
All right. So we're talking about the candle, and primarily the candle was and is used as a light form, a light source. And before Thomas Edison was so moved to invent the electric light, candles or light from some other source, whether it be kerosene or some type of oil, burning some wood, those were the sources of light. And what you have to think about is how many of these items does it take to illuminate or light up, for those of you who may not understand illuminate, light up a space, a room. And in those times, back in ancient times, or even in the 1800s, in the early 1900s, when you came into a dark room, there was no switch to flip. You just didn't walk in and flip a switch and it was illuminated. You had to bring that light with you, whether it be in a kerosene lamp or some other lantern with oil in it, or via candle. Now, before we talk about how much it takes to illuminate a room, a dark space, think about just a regular size candle. Let's say a candle that maybe is 3 inches in diameter, 6 inches long, 8 inches long, which is something like that. And you walk in there with just that one candle, and that's all you got in that dark room, in that dark space. Is that candle really going to illuminate a room like when you flip a switch and that even a 30-watt light bulb will illuminate a room enough for you to see a lot better than one candle? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, Ronline, how often you've ever, when the lights go out, you go get that candle. That's the first thing we scramble for. The lights go out in the house for whatever reason. And I think one of the most common reasons the lights go out is because that electric bill didn't get paid or you got bad weather. But whatever the reason, that room goes dark and you're scrambling to find that what?
Candle or a flashlight.
Well, we're gonna scratch the flashlight. We're gonna do primitive times. No batteries, no electricity, strictly a candle or an oil lamp to use for light. And before there was an oil lamp, well, the oil lamps have been around a long time, even since Egyptian times. They took oil and used reeds, not what they use today, the wick. The wick today is made out of like a cotton or some type of other fiber. But back then they had a reed that would be in that oil lamp to help illuminate. But for a candle, you had to make that candle and then you strike match. And back in those times, Ronline, they didn't have matches. So they didn't have that little small box of wooden matches or that book of matches on the cardboard matches with the little uh, match top on the very top of that match, the strike. You had to keep whatever source you had for that fire. You had to keep it going all the time, so you could always use it to start or to light your candle, right?
Okay.
So when you walked into that dark room with that candle, man, it was still kind of dark, right?
It was.
Okay. I think we watch the movies too much, man, and they walk into a room in a dark room with a candle, man, the room just lights up. It's like, no, that's not the way it really works. That's the movies. They're making a movie. They gotta do that for the camera, because the camera definitely won't see much in a dark room. I mean, even if you open up the aperture of a camera wide open, and having taken photography classes, that aperture is like, think about it like your eyes. You know, for aperture, the higher the number, the smaller the amount of light coming through that space. So if the aperture is at 22, it's very, very small. But if it goes to 3, it opens up. So for a camera to work in a lighted room for a film or anything else, the aperture's got to be kind of wide open so it can get as much light as possible. And if it's not enough light, you got to illuminate. That's why they have lights on TV sets and lights on movie sets to help illuminate in order for the camera to capture. But you got that candle, Ronline. You got that candle, that one candle, you know, and you're going to take that, you're going to find that match, strike it, and you know, there's nothing worse than going through a book or a box of matches and they don't strike.
Right. Like they've been wet.
Like they've been wet, or they're just old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're so old they won't even strike anymore. And you just steadily trying to get them to light strike. You just, you know, you don't worn out the little strip where you know you got to strike in order to make it work. You don't worn that thing out.
Yes.
So it's like now you're frustrated even more because you can't move around much more because you have no illumination. But when we talk about a candle in ancient times or early times, candles, and this is what made me think about candles when I heard this in church service. Candles were made from initially beeswax. Beeswax. Now, you think about beeswax, and then I want you to think about bees. One of the greatest engineering insects in the world. One of the greatest engineering insects in the world. And Ronline, you pointed this out, that there's some phenomenal engineers. Because you start out with 0 beehive. Now, and I did some research, Ronline, to find out, you know, how many bees do you need in order to make that hive come to being a structure?
What did you come up with?
Ooh, man. The initial number was 10,000 bees.
Oh, wow.
Then as I continue to dig, it went somewhere between 30 to 60,000 bees, depending on how big it is and what you're trying to do. So bees have a job. And I know some people think the bee's job is to, you know, make people uncomfortable. That's not what their job is. What is their job, Ronline?
To make that honey.
Honey.
And feed that queen.
What?
Feed the queen.
Now you know the queen is a real treacherous insect.
Mm-hmm.
You do know this, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And I love the way you did that one when we did for the pre-show. It was like hilarious. So if you want to do that one again for our audience, that
well,
for those that do not understand.
Okay, so now the queen bee is in charge. There is no king bee. There is no king bee. There's only the queen. And for those of you who like from the music world, we know who the queen bee is now, right? Mm-hmm. Queen bee, right? You know, we're gonna take a little quick sidebar. The first woman in the history of the music industry to win Best Country Album. I mean, Best Country Album at the Grammys. Duh. What? Your album was so great, they gave you the Best Country Album at the Grammys. Queen Bee, Beyonce. Okay, so that's the Queen Bee. But anyway, getting back to the Queen Bee with the beehive. The Queen Bee is, and there are several queens in the hive. It's not just one. There's several. And that's because when the bees are hatched, you know, there are three different types of bees. There's a female worker bee, there's a male drone, and then there are worker bees. So if there's a female worker bee, or there's a drone, or there's worker bees, you know, they all have to bow down and, you know, to the queen. Now, the worker bees, their job is to go out and collect nectar from flowers and bring it back. Now, if you're a worker bee and you don't want to go out there and do that, then there is a price to pay. So if you're and your buddy are worker bees and you don't want to go out that day, your friends are going to say, look, man, if you don't go out and get this honey today or get this nectar today, you're going to be in big trouble. Because when you get back.
And for those who doesn't know what nectar is, we're talking about pollen, baby.
Okay. They collect it, bring it back through the greatness of the Almighty. They have been developed. They have been given the abilities to make honey and to make wax. Now, y'all got to think about this now. It's like, because when the bees bring back the honey, the nectar, they take it, process it. They don't have a processing machine.
No,
there's no machine. There's no machine to make honey from the bees. They don't have a machine. They are the machine. Mm-hmm. So your job is to go out and get this nectar and bring it back so they can process it. And, you know, so you go out and they bring the pollen back on their legs.
No, they eat it.
Oh, they eat it. And then they bring it back. Now, you come back empty, they're going to send you to the queen. Now, they may send you to the supervisor first, and you might get a reprieve. Okay, you go back out and try it again. If you come back empty, because when she comes and asks me, hey, did worker bee number 22367 get their nectar today? And you're like, because if the supervisor gives the wrong answer, okay, I don't know if everybody knows it, but the queen bee is the only bee in the colony that fertilizes eggs. Mm-hmm. Now, Ronline, as a guesstimation, how many eggs per day? I'm going to state that again. How many eggs per day do you think the queen bee lays?
I'm thinking over 1,000.
Okay, that's a very good guess. 2,000 per day.
How long does she live?
Oh, she lives for a long time. Okay. That's not the problem.
Okay.
It's those male bees that helped her to formulate and fertilize these eggs, because after she gets the eggs. You know what she does with the male bees?
Yeah, she kill them.
Wow.
She kills them.
Wow. What? You just gonna kill a guy because what? You know,
He's a male.
he got no more use.
He's done his part.
He's done his part, so you gotta, hey man, you know.
Hey,
So,
there's no room in the hive for you after you've done what you needed to do.
so it's like you can be that worker bee and go out there, man, and get that nectar, and you have a long, healthy life. But if you come back empty, they say the queen wants to see you. And she's in a very good mood. So you figure like, oh man, me and the queen yep, you and the queen, y'all gonna have that tete-a-tete. And then after that tete-a-tete is over, and of course, it ain't no long time that y'all have that little intimacy. Cause you know, she gotta lay them 2,000 eggs, man. She ain't got time to be playing with you. So she gonna get her groove on, and then you know what? You're done. So you don't want to get in football, Ronline, when the rookies go to camp trying to make these football teams, they call it the hawk that comes by. They don't even give you a formal goodbye. They come by and put a pink slip in your locker, and that means you're done. You're fired. You know, your time for trying to make the team is over. And you don't want, you know, you go out to practice, you don't practice hard, you come back in, and that little pink slip in your locker. You got to go home. You got to go home. You're done. So you go see the queen, and after the queen has, you know, you get the pink slip, baby. You're out. So either you going to go out here and get that nectar and be a good worker bee, or you got to go see the queen bee. Which would you rather be doing? Flying out every day and going and getting that nectar, or be told to go see the queen bee? Now, I'm going out here and get this nectar, man. I'll be right back.
I'd rather say, hey, is the queen all right today?
Hey, man.
I ain't got to see her.
Because when she makes the call, no, send him up to my room. Hey, man, go get that nectar and help.
In this case, send him up to my cell.
Exactly. You know. Now, so that's what happens. She's got to lay 2,000 eggs a day. And so it says fertilized eggs become female worker bees. White unfertilized eggs become male drones. Okay, so, but again, here's the thing. They get the nectar from flowers. So when you see a bee out buzzing around, you know, going from flower to flower, leave the bee alone. The bee is on its job, doing what it's supposed to do.
Trying to live. He's trying to survive another day.
Trying to survive another day. See, because after the day is done and it gets dark and we've gone out here and collected all this nectar, you know what we got to do? We got to build this doggone hive. Okay? We got to build this hive. Now, here's what is so fascinating about the bee. They don't have a machine to make the honey. They make it themselves. They don't have a machine to make the wax. They make it themselves. So those are two things that the bee makes: honey and wax. But let's take it one step further, Ronline. Well, why do they need the wax?
To store the honey.
But what are they storing it in?
The cells of the beehive.
Okay, and what do we call
the
that?
Wax. The wax.
The honeycomb.
Okay, the honeycomb.
The honeycomb. So once you collect the nectar and you go out here and you bring it back, and they use that to make the honey, you now have to come, when you're finished doing that, hey, look, man, I've been flying around all day, man. I'm tired. I don't feel like helping build nothing. I'm not helping build nothing. You know, I'm tired. I've been out here flying all day, man. Do you know how hard it is to go find some flowers? You get to the flower, it's got no nectar in it. You know how disappointing that is. Now I got to go to another one. I got to keep going from flower to flower to flower to flower. You know, come back. Everybody's laughing at me. Man, you didn't come back with one little bucket of nectar. Everybody else coming back with 5 and 6. You got one. And it's halfway full. Man, go back out and go find some more. Take him with you to wherever y'all going. Take him with you.
Since he don't know where to go find it.
You don't know where to go. Take him with you.
Take him to your honey pot hole.
Okay. But now, after all this flying back and forth, Ronline, I mean, from the time they get busy in the morning till the time the sun goes down, that's what they're doing. You know, that's what they're doing. And if you're not doing that, you're in the hive building the hive, which basically is the honeycomb. Mm-hmm. So honey and wax. Wow. But to take it one step further, Ronline, they don't just bring it back and dump it off and put it in any kind of container. They build a honeycomb, and the honeycomb, Ronline, the honeycomb, let me give you the definition from Wikipedia. A honeycomb is a mass of hexagonal prismatic cells built from beeswax by honeybees in their nest to contain the brood, the eggs, the larvae, and the pulp, and stores honey and pollen. Y'all some bad insects, boy.
I'm telling you now.
I'm a harvester and I'm a builder.
Mm-hmm.
What? They call us the honey bees. And our job is to go out here and find pollen so that we can make honey and build this honeycomb. It just, they don't build it in a square. A square has how many sides?
4.
4 sides. They don't build it in a triangle.
With 3.
They don't build it in a
rectangle.
A rectangle or I'm trying to think of the
Pentagon.
The Pentagon. Thank you. The Pentagon. They don't build it in a 5 wall shape. They build it in a hexagon.
What, 8? Mm-hmm.
No, 6.
6, okay.
Octagon is 8, yeah. But still, so they build this in the shape of a hexagon, and not just one, connected.
Yeah, a whole, yeah.
So if you've ever seen a bee harvester, when he pulls out that slide and you see the honeycomb on that slide, that's one massive collection of wax made in hexagon shapes to make that hive. So if you got 30,000 bees, if you got 60,000 bees, boy, it's some work getting done.
Yes.
Okay? Think about when you go by a subdivision and you see people building, you see these guys building houses. You know, they're building houses. Man, these bees over here doing, they're doing some work. And how do they know to make it into a hexagon? That's the question. Wow.
And why the hexagon? That's the thing. Why it needs 6 sides?
I'm going to get to that answer shortly. But
I'm just saying. And then the other part that we learned was they have to use, in addition to all of that they've done already, they have to use their wings in order to get rid of the moisture.
The moisture in the honey.
You can't have water in the honey.
No, you can't. So the pollen has, when they get it, take it in, it's moisturized, it's got water, and they got to get, basically get the water out. So they're using their wings as fans to get the water out. But Ronline, let me ask you a question. How many bees have graduated from MIT?
None.
What?
This is their
You mean these
God-given
bees don't?
ability. We the one who got to learn everything from scratch.
You mean the bees don't go to MIT?
No, the bees doesn't go to MIT. They just do the thing.
They don't have any degreed bees?
No, but they're
None with,
engineers just the same. They taught us how to be engineers.
they don't have engineering degrees?
They don't
Architecture
have,
degrees?
no, they don't have a doctorate. They don't have a bachelor's. They don't have none
Well,
of that.
how do they know how to build a hexagon?
Their God-given ability, their God-given talent, and their obedience to get it done. Otherwise, Queen Bee get a hold to them.
So check this out. They build these cells, from what it states here, in 13-degree angles on these sides to prevent the honey from dripping out. That's why they build it like that. Keep the honey from dripping out. How do they know? They're building perfect hexagons.
Yes.
Perfect.
And they are perfect.
They are perfect. How do they know? How do these bees know? Do they go to bee college? Do they go to Georgia Tech, MIT, these traditional engineering schools? They don't go there?
No. Only as human beings gotta get educated, because we won't use our God-given talent and our abilities.
Well, we have to go to school.
Yes.
They don't go to school.
Learning from them.
I mean, it's born in them. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's the chief engineer. Look, fella, Bill, put a little bit more in that wall right there. A little bit more wax in the wall right there. It's a little weak right there. Okay, sure that up. Okay, no, you're a little off now. We got to make that a little bit, more angled. I mean, how do they do this? But that's what they do. Now, the hexagon. For those of you who have a set of hexagon keys, for those of you who know what a hexagon key is, right? The hexagon key is the little metal keys with the 6 sides to it that some screws and doors, you can only open if you can stick a hexagon, not a pentagon, not a square, not a rectangle. You got to have a hexagon key, 6 sides. The hexagon is often overlooked in traditional. I want you to listen to this carefully, Ron. I want you to listen to the words that I'm getting ready to give to you. The hexagon is often overlooked in traditional structural engineering. Most of the engineering structures we see are either in a rectangle or a square or a triangle. Correct? Would you agree?
That is correct. I do agree.
But they are saying here, this is often overlooked. But here's the reason why the bees build it in this hexagon. Here's why the bees build hexagon honeycombs. Not only to keep the honey from dripping out. Look, fella, we can't afford to lose, because if the queen comes down here and sees this honey dripping out, somebody gonna pay for it. It's not gonna be. I'm gonna tell on whoever built that. Yeah, she's gonna call you to the office. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a brief moment of pleasure, and you won't be with us anymore. Your hard hat and your work boots and your lunch pail, we're gonna have to give it to somebody else. We're gonna have to give it to somebody else. So now, the reason that bees have been empowered to build honeycombs out of wax and to build it in an hexagon. Hey, look, I'm going to come back and give you that answer after we take this break. This is the Kitchings Table every Tuesday morning. Join us as we bring you something provocative, something interesting, something enlightening. Hey, you might learn one thing if you don't learn two here on the Kitchings Table, and that's what we do. Our topic today is the candle and the bee. We're talking about the unique engineering insects, the unique engineering insects known as bees. I mean, because the other unique engineering insect, in my opinion, would be ants. But the bee, I think, has to top that because they have to fly and bring stuff in, so they have to fly stuff in. It's like if you lived in Hawaii, you only get it two ways. Either it comes on a ship or it's flown in. You can't drive it like you drive it around on the mainland from city to city. They got either ship it in or fly it in. So now, this is the Kitchings table, and again, our topic today is the bee and the camera. So, Ronline, bees build this perfect hexagon-shaped, formatted hive. And again, this traditional structural engineering dynamic combines strength and efficiency, especially when used in patterns. So the bigger the honeycomb, the stronger it is. It is efficient. It allows for larva to be put in so that it can become a bee, and it allows you to put the honey in there too. And I guess they make so much honey, it's just oozing all out of the beak of the honeycomb. Because when you pull that slide out of those boxes where they're taking care of these bees, and that honey is just oozing, it's like, man, they don't fill the thing up. It's running all over the place. They don't care. We're still working and building and bring. Hey, another shipment of nectar has just come in. Bring it on in, and they just keep working and building and working and building.
Yes. And so, Earl, I want to add to that the nutrients of the honey. It contains potassium, niacin, vitamin B6, and calcium, magnesium. So those are the things that keep your body working and in order, your heart especially. So this honey is very important. People use it to keep away to minimize the virus, because as you said, you can't kill the virus. You kill the bacteria, but you can't kill the virus. So to help you with your immune system, that's what the honey is for. So that's why it's important. So I guess now we know that. Let's move right on to the beeswax. What is that used for?
Well, here we have the next thing. And that's why when they talk about bees being, having an issue where the bees are being slowly eliminated, that's what the problem is, because of what they bring to human and mankind. So beeswax is a natural wax produced by honeybees. Okay? By honeybees. And this wax is what they make the honeycomb into. They bring it, they formulate it, they dry it out that's why all that buzzing around in there and those wings, it helps to dry out that wax. Okay, or the moisture in, so that we can have that honeycomb and also create that beeswax. So you got this wax that you use to make candles many, many, many years ago. Now, the only thing I thought about, Ronline, was if you are over here trying to extract some wax from a hive of 30,000, I'm going to low end of 10,000 bees, you got a kind of a problem. Because, of course, what are they going to do? They're going to attack you because they're trying to defend the queen and to defend the honeycomb and the honey. So they're going to attack. But some kind of way, through mankind, they've been able to take this beeswax, and they made candles. Okay, and we tend to over exaggerate size in our thinking. They weren't making real, some of the candles we see nowadays. Even when you go to some of the stores that make candles, and you see candles in a jar, that takes a lot of wax to fill up that. And I went to find out, well, how much wax does it take to make a candle? Because, aside from candles, Ronline, can you give us, while I'm pulling this information up, can you give us another item that we use that is made from wax that is real popular?
Yes. Makeup.
Makeup, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What about for kids? What item?
Crayons.
Crayons. Okay, that's what crayons are. They're made out of wax. So it takes
also hair products.
Right, hair products, yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of our cosmetics are made out of beeswax.
So it takes a lot of ounces of wax to make candles. For example, to make 25 candles in 8-ounce tins, it takes about 8 pounds of wax. A hive can produce 1 to 2 pounds of beeswax per year. So it takes 12 hours for one bee to make 8 wax scales. That's what they make in order to compile the wax. So it takes a lot. It takes 8 pounds of honey for the bees to produce a pound of wax. There you go. So that's a lot of work that these bees are putting in. I mean, and you come messing with that hive, man. It's like, look, man, we don't put in too much work. So they send those bees out to attack whoever that is. Whoever that is. So that's a lot of work that they've put in. And just think, if you put in that much work to building something and somebody comes along and wants to take it away or destroy it, you're going to be mad as hell. You want to fight. So they send. So when you see them swarming, they don't swarm just because they're swarming. You've done something to them. Okay, you've either torn up the hive, torn up the nest. You've done something, because otherwise they're just working. They're just flying back and forth to these flowers, seeking this nectar, take it back to the honeycomb, or to the hive, so that they don't have to deal with the queen. That's what's going on. So that's what's happening. And when you think about the fact that candles from many, many thousands of years ago, that's where they got the wax to make the candles, from bees. But that's not where we get the wax that you see all these candles today. They're not coming from beeswax. Now, they say beeswax is the best wax to have to make candles because it burns cleaner and it's pure, and it just burns cleaner. It's just, that's just a fact. But the candles that were made or used back in Egyptian times, they were tapers, which are the long, slender candles. They weren't big and fat. They were just long and slender. You don't have time to make all these big, fat candles. I don't have enough wax for that. So you make a taper, and the taper may only be 3 inches in diameter, 4 inches in diameter, maybe. And they're long and slender. So, okay. But in 1824, Frenchman Jean-Jacques Camboric-Carrez, and I'll probably butcher that name, introduced an important refinement in wick technology, because it went from these wooden reeds, to a wick a pillated wick, which burned more evenly than the unpillated wicks. Twisted or pillated cotton still makes for most wicks today.
Mm-hmm.
Twisted or pillated cotton. That's what the wicks are. So he came up with that in 1824. But man, the candles have been around since Egyptian times, 3000 BC. Oh my goodness. Well, y'all were harvesting a lot of wax back in the day, man, because it was dark.
Yes.
Okay. They even say that, so nowadays, what is the product used to make candles, Ronline?
Soybeans,
Soybeans is one product.
porphyrin.
The paraffin wax,
Yeah, the paraffin wax.
or petroleum wax is what many candles are made of today. And petroleum, coal, oil, shale, all of that comes from oil out of the ground. It says it consists of a mixture of hydrocarbon molecules to help do this. It is a solid at room temperature and melts at 99 degrees.
Mm.
Common applications for paraffin wax: lubrication, electrical installation. If you ever have cut some wiring and when you cut that plastic sleeve off and you see something around the copper wires, that's paraffin. And candles. Dyed paraffin wax can be made into crayons. So they dye the wax to make the crayon. So we go from the box of 8 basic crayon colors to 24. Well, when they came out with the 64 box of crayon with the crayon sharpening in the back of the box, boy, let me tell you, if you were a kid,
I had to have it.
Okay, if you were a kid and you like the color,
Mm-hmm.
and we all introduce our children to coloring at early ages, and it's all over the paper. But man, when you learn how to color correctly
Within
and
the line.
coordinate colors, stay in the lines, and then trace the lines with a color, oh man, now you really know what you're doing when you start tracing lines with a color.
Mm-hmm.
But they dye the wax in these colors. So they went from just your basic 8 colors to 24. But when they went to that box of 64 crayons, that's 64 colors, well, let me tell you, you were something special. So now you have to have coloring books in order to use the crayon to color. And they got books, drawings, and you color, got sheets. So that's the other thing that besides cosmetics, I think we know wax comes from, or what wax is used for, is crayon. But candles is the number one thing we think about.
Mm-hmm.
So paraffin is what's being used nowadays, not so much wax. I think they've gotten away from the beeswax, especially with the fact that bees are being, really destroyed here on Earth by man, the most destructive animal known to mankind. Man is the most destructive. Animals do what they do out of survival. Man does what it does out of greed. So anyway, Ronline, that is what we want to talk about today here on the Kitchings table, the bee and the candle. Thank God for the bees.
Yes. It has lightened up a lot of dark rooms.
It is lit up a lot of dark rooms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still lighting today. So when you see candles, thank the bee for their ingenuity. If you take honey, or you're using honey, thank the bee for all the hard work that they produce out there to make honey. And we're talking specifically about honey bees. Honey bees, not the yellow jacket bees. Honey bees. Honey bees make honey and wax. You mess around with a yellow jacket, that yellow and black bee with the big stinger, it's got a big stinger. Yeah, if you've ever been stung by a bee, boy, you're talking about some torment Oh my goodness. And when you're a child, it feels like you're on fire. So anyway, I'm gonna let you have your Black History moment, Ronline.
Well, thank you so much for that, Earl, and that education. I just love you because of what you bring to the table. So, because of that, I am bringing Miss Terry Johnson. She is the founder and CEO of the Harlem Candle Company. The Harlem Candle Company. And she started making candles in her kitchen in 2014. And today, before I get there, she was living in Texas, and she was inspired by her aunt, always having fragrances, lighting up the room. Just for those of you that knows about aromatherapy, can change a mood. I guess her aunt often listened to jazz, and jazz became her mantra, Ms. Johnson's mantra. And she decided to leave Texas and move to New York City, New York, and started living in the neighborhood of Harlem. And she was inspired by the Harlem Renaissance. And her favorite figures was Billie Holiday and Duke Ellington. And you could check out her brands. She has expanded over to the perfume and bath and body line, as well as candles. You may check her out at harlembrands.com. I'm thankful for this entrepreneur who had an entrepreneurial spirit. She has traveled around the world to more than 70 countries. I'm talking about her love and passion for what she does and how to make a company successful in just dealing with this. What she uses for her candles is soybeans. So it says that is eco-friendly for the environment, and just have fun shopping. That's all I could tell you. All right, Earl, bringing you back.
Thank you. So there you have it. The lady has made candles almost over 10 years now and continues to grow her business. So thank you for bringing that to us, Ronline. And thank you for helping us augment today's topic, the candle and the bee and the candle. The most ingenious engineering insect known to man. I'm going to put it at the top. There may be some others, like I say, ants are another engineering marvel, but the bees can fly. They can bring it, make it,
and dry it out.
Dry it out. They do it all. They're their own manufacturing company, all in one. They do it all. So we're just happy to know that such an insect can do so many things, and we're thankful for them. And we hope that you learned a little something today from us bringing you this information about candles and bees and where it all originated from, because without them, there may have not been any light. And, you got to think about, well, how did they know to make candles from beeswax? So the whole process is just fascinating, because you got to do some experimentations to understand if this is going to work. I mean, somebody had to figure that out. Okay, you see wax. Okay, I got the honey. What are we going to do with all this leftover wax? I don't know, man. Throw it in the garbage. Now, I'm going to see if I can find a use for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you found out that it burns.
And that's probably what happened. They probably threw it in a fire.
And that's what happened. So anyway, that's going to do it for us today here on the Kitchen Table. We hope you learned something and enjoy what we brought to you. I'd like to thank my co-host, Ms. Ronline Cannady, for always bringing us some inspiration in history from a Black history perspective. So until next time here on the Kitchings table, I'm Earl Kitchings for Ronline Cannady. As we say always, go out and do something good for somebody today. See you next time.